Everybody, what's up? It's your girl, B Sparrow Buzz, Sweet Talk Radio. How y'all doing today? I am doing just fine. Thank you very much. I'm thankful that the Most High woke me up this morning. And if you are within the sound of my voice, I'm thankful that He woke you up this morning too. I'm out and about today. My husband has surgery. Y'all pray for my husband. He is in danger of losing his left leg. And I'm praying to the Most High that that doesn't happen. So I'm at the hospital. I will be here for the next 2-3 hours. Just decided to step out, get some fresh air. It's a beautiful day today here in the ENC. It is 60-something degrees out here. Very nice. Not too hot, not too cold. I mean, it's perfect. See, I just have on this and, pair of jeans. I came across this article that I wanted to talk about, and it really saddened it just saddened my spirit. It really did, and it just made me realize that a lot of people think that they know God or the Most High Yah. A lot of people think that they know Him and they don't, especially when it comes to Christians. A lot of Christians think they know the Most High Yah, but they don't. And how can you when you don't read and when you don't study? A lot of Christians just got Him all mixed up with somebody else. I don't know who they got Him mixed up with, but it's sad. I read this article that said a religious sect followers prayed and sang as an 8-year-old girl died. All 14 have been found guilty of manslaughter. You think you know God. How can you know Him and you don't read? The only way you can know Him is if you read His Word and know what to expect of Him. That's the only way. You can't go by what nobody else said. You can't listen to Pastor Ham. You can't listen to Pastor Pork Chop. You can't listen to Minister New Birth. You just can't do it. You got to read for yourself. You have to develop a relationship with the Most High for yourself. This has happened in Brisbane, Australia. 14 members of a small religious sect in Australia have been found guilty of the manslaughter of an 8-year-old girl who died after they withheld insulin needed to treat her diabetes because of their unwavering belief that God would heal her. She died because they withheld her insulin, believing that God would heal her. But instead of God healing her, she passed away. They did all this praying and all this singing and all this believing in God, and the baby passed away. As she lay dying, they turned to prayer and song, maintaining a vigil around her bed, and even after she'd stopped breathing, sought divine intervention to raise her from the dead. Elizabeth Stru's parents were among members of the home-based church found guilty after a 9-week judge-only trial at Brisbane's Supreme Court that heard evidence from 60 witnesses and examined hundreds of exhibits. Heading down the verdicts, Justice Martin Burns said Elizabeth's death was inevitable after the group failed to administer insulin or seek medical help as she lay dying over 6 days in January of 2022 at her home in Toowoomba, west of Brisbane. And I'm probably jacking these names up, but I'm pronouncing them according to how they look to me, okay? Okay. All 14 members have refused to enter a plea, which was formally accepted as not guilty, and the courtroom was adapted to seat all defendants so they could stand trial together. In his ruling Wednesday, Burns said that until her death, Elizabeth was a vibrant, happy child who was lovingly cared for and adored by all members of the church, including the accused. However, due to a singular belief in the healing power of God, which, to the minds of her parents and the other members of the church, left no room for recourse to any form of medical care or treatment, she was deprived of the one thing that would most definitely keep her alive: insulin. Elizabeth was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in 2019, but died on January 7th, 2022, of diabetic ketoacidosis. Ketoacidosis. It's a complication caused by a lack of insulin and medical treatment for the condition, according to the ruling. The group's spiritual leader, Brandon Stevens, and the girl's father, Jason Strew, were originally charged with murder by reckless indifference, but both were found guilty of the lesser charge, like Charlemagne, because Burns wasn't convinced beyond reasonable doubt that they knew that Elizabeth would die. During the trial, the court heard the sect was almost completely confined to 3 families who, at the time of Elizabeth's death, met 3 days a week. This is really sad to me. This really breaks my heart, because they could have saved that little girl. They could have saved her. But they believed that the Most High, let me go back. They believed that God would revive her. Not even, maybe perhaps God is the one that provided the insulin to help her. And they thought that he was going to up and just heal her. And because of it, 14 of them are serving time, or they will be sentenced. They said up until that day, the little girl was vibrant, lively, happy. They had been giving her insulin. So during the trial, the 3 families didn't ascribe to any religious denominations, but saw themselves as Christians who followed the Bible. They didn't see themselves as any denomination, but called themselves Christians who followed the Bible. They believed that through prayer a person could receive the Holy Spirit. which would enable them to speak in tongues. Paul believed, the Apostle Paul believed that a person should not be speaking in tongues unless they have an interpreter. Otherwise, keep them moans and them groans and them mumblings to yourself. That's biblical. A central tenet of their faith was the healing power of God, and they rejected conventional medicine, which some members described as witchcraft. So, the medicine, the insulin couldn't have been from God, huh? The court heard that Jason Strews joined the church in August 2021. That's the little girl's father, following his wife Carrie, who'd become a firm believer in its teachings. Just months later, on January 2nd, Jason Strews declared to a church meeting that God had healed Elizabeth of her diabetes, according to Burns' written ruling. That night, Elizabeth had one last dose of slow-acting insulin, and the next morning her glucose levels were so normal that Jason Strews became convinced that God had intervened. And I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your last name, Struz, S-T-R-U-H-S, Struz or Strews, but he told his daughter to put away her glucometer, because she didn't need it anymore. And the group members praised the miraculous development, the ruling said. Glucose meters measure the amount of glucose in blood and indicate if a dose of insulin is needed. Elizabeth Strews used hers for the last time on January 3rd. Over the next 4 days, church members took turns monitoring Elizabeth's condition, sitting by her bedside as she steadily deteriorated. They shared text message updates, with some describing her as restless. She was vomiting and fairly weak. Yet, Stevens repeatedly reassured Elizabeth's parents that God shall prevail according to the ruling. Justice Burns wrote that any belief that God had intervened ought to have been dispelled when church members watched Elizabeth decline into severe illness. Instead, the group called for prayers, sang, and talked about the goodness of God. Even after the 8-year-old stopped breathing early on January 7th, the group gathered around her, singing choruses and praying for her to be raised from the dead by God. Other text messages between defendants said Elizabeth does not appear to be breathing, apparently, but we will see a victory very soon. God can do anything. Jason Strews finally called emergency services 36 hours after his daughter's death, telling others that though God would still raise Elizabeth, they could not leave a corpse in the house, that ruling said. When police arrived at the house, they set up a crime scene, ushering church followers outside. One detective told the court that when she arrived, she saw about 20 people in the front yard playing music, singing, and praying. Outside court on Wednesday, Elizabeth's older sister, Jade, told reporters she was relieved that those responsible for her death had been found guilty. It's been a long and hard 3 years. Not a moment has gone by that I haven't thought about my little sister, she said. All 14 found guilty will be sentenced on February 11th. These people thought they knew God, but apparently they didn't. I'm sorry that that happened to Elizabeth, but I'm praying that she's in a better place or will be in a better place, that God will embrace her and take her under his wings. And I just hope that people start to read their Bible and start to get a better understanding of who y'all think is God. Get a better understanding. It's your girl, B Sparrow, Buzz Sweet Talk Radio. Yo, y'all, holla at y'all, girl, okay? Well, all right.
You're listening to Buzz Sweet Radio.
B Sparrow, 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 B Sparrow. Yo, dog, it's B Sparrow. Like, share, and subscribe. This belief is gonna bring it live. Information, world news, current events, the source. Accurate as a fingerprint. A cool sister, a force for the people. Attacking real enemies, strategy that's lethal. There will be no sequels, so get your tickets. A cool place for you to sit back and kick it, or get evicted. Dialogue to begin to the bottom of it. We can agree to disagree, hate it or love it. Either way, she's sitting and talking like an arrow. Introducing ladies and gentlemen, B Sparrow.